Sports prime time on a Tuesday night. Hope everybody's week is off to a fantastic start. Hope you're ready to get into a little bit of NFL conversation over the course of this evening's show. A lot to discuss. 6 must-watch games from week 1. We've broken them down in great detail. Myself, Greg Cosell, it's currently a part of the 2-part week 1 preview that Greg Cosell and myself of NFL Films are putting out on our podcast, The Install, with Greg Cosell of NFL Films. And you'll hear portions of that throughout the course of tonight's show. We'll talk about the 6 exciting games, the must-watch matchups for any football fan in week 1. We'll spend some time on Kyler Murray and the Tennessee Titans as well, an article that I just wrote for A to Z Sports.com that you can check out as soon as we conclude our show this evening. A lot of good football conversation to have with you and a lot of time to do it this evening. But first, you guys have to get involved and you have to share this show. If you are hanging out with us on Twitter, you can retweet the show in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you are on Facebook Live, you can share now to public. That's in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. If you're like Brad Lipford or Mark Jones and you're hanging out on YouTube, you can make sure that you can get involved with the proceedings and subscribe to the A to Z Sports channel, where you can get all of our great live stream content 7 days a week throughout the course of the football season. Subscribe and make sure that you don't miss out on anything that we're producing, because there's a lot of great stuff coming on a regular basis directly to you. And now that more of you are here, we can go ahead and get this show started officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports prime time on a Tuesday night from the DraftKings Sportsbook Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising. I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by the fine folks at Two Rivers Ford. Two Rivers Ford, the best in the business, with the Built For You program that I'll tell you about later on in the show. Built for you at Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet, or online at tworiversford.com. DraftKings Sportsbook. Get in on all the action with the promo code A2Z Sports in the DraftKings Sportsbook app. The best in the business. America's top-rated sportsbook app is DraftKings Sportsbook. The Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage, the official real estate agent of the Titans, the Preds, and A to Z Sports Prime Time. Your dream address without the stress at GaryAshton.com. And, of course, satisfaction guaranteed on all your HVAC needs at the one and only Brymak Mechanical, BRYMAK, Brymak.com. All right, so a lot of fun matchups, including the Titans and the Cardinals in week 1 of this NFL season. Tonight, we're going to talk about 6 that you have to make sure. I mean, I know most of you are watching on Red Zone, but 6 in particular, you have to be paying close attention to. That's going to be the bulk of tonight's show. It's good to see everybody, by the way. John Vargas, Aaron Goff, Josh Sabata, everybody hanging out in the comment section. So what game, I guess, is the place that we should start? What game are you most excited to watch? That can be the Titans and the Cardinals, but if you have one on the schedule this week that you're particularly intrigued by, what is the best week 1 matchup in the NFL? Let me know in the comments on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. We will discuss at length together what is the best week 1 matchup in the NFL. Give me your response, and we will discuss over the course of tonight's show. What's up, Buck? Says Brian Bowman. Brian Bowman is quarantine watching, so we hope that all is well with Brian Bowman and that he makes a speedy recovery or is cleared of the protocol soon. Brad Lipford says, let's start with the first one. Well, the first one is absolutely an intriguing matchup, right? The first one on the docket is Thursday Night Football, the NFL season opener in 2021. It is the defending Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Dallas Cowboys. Now, this is intriguing for a great many reasons, much less the football on the field. The Buccaneers probably going to improve in their standing ultimately. That is one of the most exciting games on this slate for sure. I think Titans Cards is way up there, says John Bertotti. On Facebook Live, Jeff Sawyer says Bucks and Boys on Thursday night. Chris Frazier says, I don't care. Titans for me. That's all I care about. Yeah, Chris, but I mean, you're going to watch another NFL game. You're surely, because there's a bunch of teams. There's literally all of the teams that you're going to play this coming season are playing in week one. Surely, Chris, your interests, wander outside of the Titans from time to time. You don't care to watch the Seahawks and the Colts this week because you will play the Seahawks and then the Colts immediately after that. I think you should. I think that's, you're not doing yourself justice if you're not scouting ahead, if you're not paying attention to what's happening around the NFL, only focusing in on your team, even though I understand that you have waited quite some time to focus on exclusively your team. Zay Anderson says, don't forget about Browns at Chiefs. Yeah, there's plenty of good ones. We'll talk about the 6 that I think are must watch in week one here in just a second, right after I remind you about our friends at Two Rivers Ford. They have announced the all-new Built For You program. Now you can order any Ford, any color, with any available features and accessories from Two Rivers Ford. They'll put it together, and the vehicle that you ordered will be delivered right to your door. It's just another way that Two Rivers Ford makes buying a vehicle easy. So if it's not on the lot, it's not a problem. Two Rivers Ford will order the exact Ford you want, built just for you. So ask about the all-new Built For You program at Two Rivers Ford when you pay them a visit in Mount Juliet. Two Rivers Ford, love where you buy your Ford. So with all of the great week one matchups that are available to you, you can count the home team if you want. You can do that. Just wanted to invite all of our viewers that are not aware. This is from Sean Gill of the A to Z Sports Nashville group on Facebook. Come join us to continue the conversations after the game, shows, and every day. Well, that's exciting. I had no idea that existed. So more power to the A to Z Sports Nashville group on Facebook. Joey Watts says, Chris Frazier, Buck Rising be linking you out. Man, you better quit, Joey. Very interested in seeing how many interceptions that Wentz throws, says Paulie D. And that's assuming that Carson Wentz is going to start week one. I think it's a fair assumption, but I still think that there may be some disputing that as we get closer and closer, pending the health of that particular player. So what I want to look at, though, are the first 3 games on my list. The first 3 games on my list of the most exciting for week one matchups that we're going to watch. First, I would start with the Steelers and the Bills. Now, these are 2 teams, obviously, you're going to play during the regular season as a Titans fan. And certainly the new look Steelers offense with Najee Harris, who they drafted, I think that they drafted him with the intention of being more run dedicated. How Josh Allen maintains his exceptional 2020 performance. Is he one of these players and on one of these teams that COVID kind of disillusioned us about positively, right? There will be fluke teams in the NFL, just as there were in the NBA, just as there were in college football, with how weird last year was across sports. Are the Bills and Josh Allen one of these teams? I still think that while he made probably the biggest leap of any player last year developmentally and had a good case for an MVP candidacy probably through the first 8 weeks, 10 weeks of the season before things kind of tailed off for the Bills. Now, they still managed to find themselves in the AFC Championship game, so let's not completely sleep on Buffalo. But more than anything, I'm looking at the Bills and the Steelers and saying, well, those are 2 teams that the Titans are going to play. It's a critical matchup for the standings in the AFC, whether you're talking about wild card implications or not. Right out the gate, you have a great one between an AFC North and AFC East opponent. Another, the second of these games, I would look at and say the Chiefs versus the Browns is going to be so much fun to watch, I think. I'm curious to see what Baker Mayfield looks like after a pretty strong finish to 2020. I'm curious to see how much better the Chiefs get now that they've actually improved substantially the offensive line in front of Patrick Mahomes. Now, the Browns probably have the most loaded roster of any NFL team this year. I think if you look at their talent top to bottom, the Browns, top end at least, are way up there among the most talented teams in football. But how do they – this is This has been the case on them basically since the 2019 opener. And the Titans went into Cleveland and smacked them around pretty well. Now, they've since made improvements, but I do think that the Browns' hype around this particular team is justified to a degree, but it's more than about how much talent you have. It's how you find ways to make it cohesive. And to this point, the Browns are getting there, but not quite there yet. The final or the first 3 games out of the 6 that I think are week 1 must watches, and we'll talk about the top 3 here in just a second. Dolphins versus the Patriots is a pretty interesting game. Not just because of Tua, not just because of Mac Jones, not just because the Titans play at New England on Thanksgiving weekend, but because this has the implications with the Bills in the balance. I think the Bills are still the Vegas favorite to win the AFC East this year. I look at this Dolphins and Patriots game and say, this is going to be a legitimately difficult test for a rookie quarterback going against a ferocious Brian Flores defense. I think that there equally can be said about Tua versus the New England Patriots, though, in week 1.
Yeah, I mean, New England, look, they're going to have a good defense. They've
Right.
got a lot of really good players. Obviously, Gilmore is out. J.C. Jackson, and I remember watching him in Maryland, and he was one I got right because I really liked his tape coming out of Maryland. And I know he had some off the field stuff because he had transferred there, I think from a Florida school, but he had some issues. Looks like Jalen Mills is going to be the corner opposite. We'll see. I mean, I saw Jalen Mills here in Philly for years. I think you can line him up at corner. I don't know if that's what you want to do all year long. But I think with Hightower back, with Matthew Judon, who I think is a really good player and fits the Belichick mold because he can line up in multiple positions. He can rush the quarterback. He can play in space. They have Van Noy back. Van Noy is just that same kind of player. Van Noy's not a numbers guy. He's not going to get you 12 sacks or 150 tackles, but he can do a lot of things. And the player who stood out to me at times a year ago, and for whatever it's worth, really stood out in the preseason, was Josh Uche, the second-year player from the University of Michigan, who I think is going to end up being a good edge pass rusher for them, and they really haven't had that guy in recent years.
So that's the great Greg Cosell of NFL Films. We did a 2-part week 1 preview with these 6 games. The first 3 available to you now in podcast form. The podcast is called The Install with Greg Cosell, and new episodes every Wednesday. We will have the second part of the week 1 preview available to you by 6 p.m. tomorrow in your podcast feed. So make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. I'm fascinated by Tua versus a revamped and refurbished Patriots defense. Remember, nobody had more opt-outs in 2020 than the Patriots on defense. So it's going to be a much different looking unit, a much more competent unit. And I do think that there are some intriguing opportunities for Tua to kind of, shut people up while his franchise is rumored to be, consistently in the trade talks for Deshaun Watson, what little trade talks existed prior to that deadline passing. Luis Medina says, not a must watch, but Ravens versus Raiders could be interesting. What is the best week 1 matchup to you? Let me know on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. We'll get the top 3 here in just a second, right after I tell you about our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook. Fire up your tailgates. The NFL is back. Get in on the action before opening night kicks off with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. With the NFL returning, DraftKings is giving all customers the opportunity to participate in this year's no-brainer offer. DraftKings Sportsbook has moved the spread to Tampa Bay plus 73 for all customers. All you have to do to take advantage of that offer and another one that I'm going to tell you about here in just a second is download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code A2Z Sports. New customers can bet $1 on any football game to receive $200 in free bets instantly with promo code A2Z Sports. This week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee to bet. Free bet promotion for new customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Max wager limits apply. one per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text the Tennessee Red Line 1-800-889-9789. DraftKings Sportsbook, promo code A2Z Sports. What's the most exciting matchup of week one? We've talked about the first three that I'm interested in. We haven't talked about the local professional football team yet, nor their weeks 2 and 3 opponent, but we will get to those momentarily. Larry Ford says it's the Steelers versus the Bills. Chemical Brother 78 on YouTube says Browns KC. C-Dub 456 on YouTube agrees with that, as does Donovan Romaine, saying he hopes that the Browns get whooped. Mark Jones says Julio and AJ versus Peterson and the Arizona secondary. I think, Mark, you're going a little more involved than we are just yet, right? We're going to break down the X's and O's of Titans and Cardinals later on in the week, but in the meantime, I'm talking about team versus team, week one opponent versus week one opponent. Noah Lurch with a laughing emoji, and Cody Milholen on Facebook Live, both of them say Texans versus the Jags. See who's not only the division bottom feeder, but the NFL bottom feeders. Just a lot of hate for both the Jags and the Texans in the chat tonight. Donovan says Peterson is not on the cards. He's on the Vikings. That's right. Thank you for reminding me, Donovan. Not Adrian Peterson. Patrick Peterson is a Minnesota Viking. Malcolm Butler was supposed to be Patrick Peterson's replacement, but of course he has since been placed on the reserve retired list. Donovan says Bears versus Rams should be a good game. I don't think so. Andy Dalton starting at quarterback. The Rams, I don't know that the Rams are all that everybody's hyping them up to be, but I do think they're better than the Bears. I mean, the Bears have probably, I don't know if it's the worst offensive line in football, but it's really bad. And that's a big reason why they're not putting Justin Fields back there. It's not worth potentially ruining a star quarterback so early on in his career. What is the biggest week one matchup to you in the NFL? Herod Mark says Seahawks and Colts. I don't know that it's the biggest, but it's one of the 6 that I'm looking forward to. And myself and Greg Cosell of NFL Films, we broke this matchup down at length.
Well, what we know is that he came from the Rams. So the question is, and of course we didn't see this in the preseason because Russell Wilson didn't play, is what their offense is going to look like. I personally think a Rams-style offense with a heavy emphasis on the quarterback under center and outside zone run action and the play action pass game working off that with tighter reduced splits by the wide receivers helping to define the throws would be very good for Russell Wilson. Because as good as Russell Wilson is really much more of a second reaction player, than he is kind of a rhythmic pocket player. And over the last part of last season, he did not play very well. He broke down a lot on his own. He broke down prematurely, which of course made his offensive line look even worse. And he gets sacked a lot. He's always gotten sacked a lot. I think if Shane Waldron is going to run that style offense, that would help Russell Wilson an awful lot. It would also help the offensive line, by the way, an awful lot, because you have to think of it this way. When you run outside zone and play action off of that, when you run the hard stretch outside zone, how does the defensive line move initially? They move laterally, Buck, right, because they're playing the run game and it's outside zone. So they're taking a step or two laterally before they start an upfield pass rush, and that gives the quarterback more time to settle into the pocket. Plus, there's a deeper element, a deep pass game element to that style of run action. And we know they have Metcalf, who at 6'4", 230 is a 4-3 guy, and Lockett, who can also get deep. So it gives them, I think, so much more, assuming that's the offense they're going to run. And my guess is it will be.
That is Greg Cosell's analysis of the Seahawks and the Colts. The Seahawks, of course, with a new offensive coordinator in Shane Waldron, who comes to them by way of the Los Angeles Rams. I think that there are going to be plenty of good games in week one. I saw Donovan bring up the Chargers versus the Washington football team. Dom Odell, just seeing, I can hear the disgust via the comment. Jags are making the playoffs and some of these competent analysts' predictions. Well, those analysts would be sorely mistaken because this Jags roster is not prepared to make a postseason push. They can make things muddy for a couple teams, I think, but their defense is so bad. It's not even about their offense. It's their defense that stinks. I think more than anything, though, so Seahawks-Colts, I think, is an exciting matchup. Of course, the headliner on Thursday night, the season opener, as Brian Spivey points out on Facebook Live. Cowboys and Bucks is a great game. Provided that, Dak Prescott is as close to 100% as humanly possible. It sounds like he could be dealing with some residual issues from his ankle. And then, of course, there's the Titans and the Cardinals, which we are going to spend basically the rest of the week previewing up until on Wednesday and on Thursday night, because, of course, they'll practice tomorrow and Thursday and Friday, and we'll spend more time on that ahead of the game itself. But with this matchup between the Titans and the Cardinals, something I wrote about today at A2ZSports.com, and you can check out that article, this is going to be really the first true test for the Titans defense, new look as it is, for Shane Bowen in what I'm going to consider this his debut as the defensive coordinator. I'm a wipe last year out of my mind until such time as, Kyler Murray starts to embarrass them, and then immediately we'll rehash all the issues that they had last year that on the field it looks like they haven't corrected. They've had plenty of time to get things right on defense. This will be a great opportunity, a great challenge for them, given that Kyler Murray can do so many things off a schedule and make you pay with his legs, not just his arm, right? Rashaan Evans talked about this earlier. Rashaan Evans talked about this earlier in the week when we spoke to him. I think this was Monday at practice, basically that Kyler Murray reminds Rashaan of Lamar Jackson, not physically, but in their abilities. He still has that playmaking ability to make off schedule plays with both his legs and his arm. Cody says Kyler Murray is overrated. I don't know. I don't know, Cody. I think the Cardinals just generally, I think they're kind of paper tigers. Like they lost 5 of their last 7 games down the stretch last year. And a lot of that was because I don't think Cliff Kingsbury is a very good coach. I look at, and the only 2 games that they won in that 5 losses in 7 games stretch, the only 2 teams that they beat were from the NFC East. And we know that the NFC East was not a good division last year. So you can look at that and kind of grade it on a curve, right? I do think the Cardinals on the whole are overrated. I haven't made my mind up about Kyler Murray. I think this year they're going to have to decide whether they pick up his 5th-year option at the end of the season, and that is going to be important. It's going to be important for him to kind of prove himself. So I think we'll find out a great deal about Kyler Murray this year. Bud Dupree is going to be 10 times better than Clowney was, says Mark Jones. Speaking of Bud Dupree, before I forget, Bud Dupree is going to be on my radio show tomorrow at 11:15 Central Time. C-Dub asks, is Dupree starting this game? Yes, Bud Dupree is going to start this game. And you can hear Bud Dupree on my radio show at 11:15 Central Time tomorrow on 104.5 The Zone. And if you can't listen to that interview live, you can download the podcast of my radio show. It's just the Buck Rising Show in your favorite podcast app. Leave us some nice. I haven't seen any new reviews or 5-star ratings in Apple Podcasts lately. So this is my request for you. I will provide you exceptional content as I have been doing. All I ask is that you simply leave a nice review, and it doesn't even have to be a nice review. As long as I get 5 stars out of you, you can say all the nasty things that you want. It will make me happy just to see the 5 stars. So do that and enjoy the conversation with Bud Dupree tomorrow, again, 11:15 Central Time, for those of you in the Central Time Zone, or, whenever you want, as long as you're subscribed to the podcast of my radio show on 104.5 The Zone. All right. So matchups as far as this is concerned, I look at this and I say, there's one thing that I think the Titans have a definitive advantage over Kyler Murray with, and I'll tell you what that is here in just a second. Producer Reed, if we could tweet that out on the A to Z Sports handle. One distinct advantage that the Titans have over Kyler Murray in week 1, while you guys get ready for that conversation. I will tell you about our friends at the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. GaryAshton.com is where you go for your dream address without the stress. My good friend Gary, who, by the way, the Gary Ashton tailgate will be in the south end zone or across from the south end zone at Nissan Stadium. 10 a.m. is when you can start showing up to the tailgate. I'll be out there. Luke Worsham will be out there. There will be food. There will be cornhole. There will be music. Come hang out at the Gary Ashton tailgate just in front of the south end zone at Nissan Stadium. It's a great time to sell in Nashville, but you can't do it without the intel. No one's got better intel than the Gary Ashton team. Everyone else is getting the same information and competing for the same properties. But when you go to GaryAshton.com, they will give you the edge with the best real estate intel in Nashville. Plus, the Gary Ashton team is the official real estate agent of the Tennessee Titans. Get the confidence to sell your home without the stress and with time to find your dream address. Call the Gary Ashton team with RE/MAX Advantage today at 615-301-1650 or visit GaryAshton.com. And remember, don't sell without the intel. It's just that easy with the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. So, one distinct advantage that the Titans have over the Cardinals this weekend, particularly over Kyler Murray, who we've spent a great deal of time talking about. So I went and looked at some numbers, and I'm pretty early on in my study of the Cardinals and what they did last year, and we'll continue researching after we conclude primetime, because I've got I'm trying to put together ideas for articles and questions that I want to ask Mike Vrabel and AJ Brown and Julio Jones, who we're going to talk to I think tomorrow, which would be good because we haven't heard from them in basically a month. I look at this, though, and I say that there's one distinct advantage that I look at with Kyler Murray. Now, Kyler Murray is listed at 5'10" and 1/8 inches. All right, that was the official measurement of him at the combine. Now, I think that he was wearing heels or something like that. This has been disputed by many Kyler Murray height truthers. I don't necessarily disagree with that assessment, but for the purposes of this conversation, let's say that Kyler Murray is indeed 5'10" and 1/8 inches. Okay. So Kyler Murray looks pretty small behind an NFL offensive line, and that hasn't necessarily affected all of his abilities, but one in particular that does bother him. And I wrote about this at A2ZSports.com. You can read my full analysis there of the one distinct advantage that the Titans have over Kyler Murray. That one thing is length. It simply comes down to the tangible quality of length up front. Kyler Murray, whether he's 5'9" or 5'10" or 5'10" and 1/8 inch, as he is officially listed, he has the second highest percentage of batted passes at the line of scrimmage of any quarterback last season. 16 passes he had swatted at the line by defensive linemen or linebackers or people coming on blitzes, okay? 16 times. That's a lot if you're talking about ball disruption. You look at 6'6", Denico Autry. You look at Jeff Simmons is probably 6'4", I would say. 6'4", 6'5" on a good day, if we're measuring the way that Kyler Murray measures himself. 6'6", 6'5", Jeff Simmons, who last year alone had 5 batted passes, some of which, by the way, created turnovers. This is a Jeff Simmons, Denico Autry field day, because if you can get hands up in front of the quarterback, you don't have to bring him down. If you can disrupt the pass at the line of scrimmage, an incompletion is almost as good a result as getting, pressure on the quarterback, causing him to scramble, and then Kyler Murray making a play with his legs, as he is known to do. You will have to contain on the outside, and if you can contain, you can bat balls at the line of scrimmage. It's a fantastic advantage in favor of the Tennessee Titans. Skidley Bob says it's the SWAT team. Paul Thames says no one under 6'4", and I'm sure they all have huge wingspans. Harold Landry is not 6'4", Bud Dupree is not 6'4". So if you're talking about defensive linemen, I don't think Tart's 6'4". Murchison might be. I'm not sure. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but Simmons and Autry for certain, and Rashad Weaver, who will factor into this game as well and can play on the inside in those NASCAR packages let Murray run around, it's going to hurt you. But if you can contain and you can make him pass, you can bat those balls down, create turnovers, cause incompletions. That is a victory for the Titans defense right out the gate. Inside football breakdown, says Donovan Romaine. He says he loves it. Well, good. I'm glad that you like it, because it's now football season and I can actually talk about football, X's and O's. Paul Thames says, do you think they will play Weaver a good amount? I don't know that. I know that he's getting a ton of work on the scout team this week because he is wearing number 55 to simulate Chandler Jones for the Titans offense during these practices. Mutombo finger wave, not in our house, says Mark Jones. I'm excited for this opener. I hope to see a lot of you out there, by the way, whether you're coming to the Gary Ashton tailgate or you're in the stadium and you want to say hi, because media still can't get down on the field pregame the way that we used to. So we're resigned to the lower bowl, which I kind of hate because, now that it's full capacity, I love to see you guys, but it makes my life a lot harder when I'm trying to navigate the lower bowl and there's, hopefully it will be a full house. I will be curious to see whether they can fill up Nissan Stadium, for a team with this kind of expectations and with this kind of hype. Larry Ford says, hey, bud, I will be there with three. Be there with three. Beware with three, Larry. I challenge you to some cornhole. Well, you're welcome to challenge me to some cornhole. I will stay as long as I can. But you know that I've got to work, so I can't get into a full cornhole match with you. But I'll toss a bag or two before I walk into the stadium. Joey Watts says he's going. John Bertotti says he's looking forward to being at the game. Dom says he's going to slide up in that tailgate. Do it. It'll be a great time. I know that the Ashton team would love to see you, and they'll get you taken care of at the Gary Ashton tailgate. I'll be there with mushrooms I bought for Bonnaroo, says Titans Tirades. I love that. I love that so much. I saw that MTSU was giving away free tickets to all of the stranded Bonnaroo goers because, of course, that got canceled due to weather last week. Unfortunate. Michael Jones says he's there in the nosebleeds. That's great. Captain Trips is going to be there. That's fantastic. I'll be at the tailgate myself, says Trail of Money Gleaves. Man, I hope to see a lot of you guys out there. I'm going to be there. Luke Worsham, who is now, by the way, Luke Worsham's doing the I can't do the pregame show the way that I used to, the full half hour, because I've got an hour of pregame radio to do for Titans Radio. So I'll be on the radio from 9 to 10. And then at 10 o'clock, I'll be at the Gary Ashton tailgate to see some of you guys. Be there until about 10:30 before I walk into the stadium and get my day underway. Gone viral video to conclude our show on this Tuesday night, as is our custom every Tuesday. Speaking of the Titans, since we're on Titans subject matter, I took 2 videos at practice. Well, Luke took 1 video, I took 1 video, but both videos came from the A to Z Sports account and both went viral this week. I will say to you that it made me laugh out loud just to see how much more the excitement was, because there's an actual game this week. So the gone viral video is this. Who excites you more as a Titans fan? Who most excites you as a Titans fan? Is it Julio Jones or is it Derrick Henry? Let me know in the comment section on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. We will discuss at length together right after I tell you about Brymac Mechanical, who will provide you satisfaction guaranteed on all your HVAC needs. Chris Hamby, Miss Sherry, family-owned business, named for Brian and Mackenzie. This is an incredible business because they provide to you literal satisfaction guaranteed. And I promise you, you will not be incredibly excited to be to have Brymac back in business with us. BRYMAK, Brymac.com. Who are you most excited to see on Sunday? Is it Derrick Henry or is it Julio Jones? Let me know in the comment section. Derrick Henry for Mark Jones, as does Jeffrey Kevin Pincourt. He agrees. Todd Morgan also. Larry Ford says Julio because I know what Henry can do on this team. I know what Julio can do, but want to see it on this team. Yes, Julio Jones is in fact a Tennessee Titan. In case you needed reminding, but apparently some of you did, because the way that these two videos that I took, one, Derrick Henry, the video taken by Luke Worsham, Julio Jones, the video taken by yours truly, at Titan practice the other day. It's like you guys forgot that these dudes play for your team, because you flocked to this content in ways that shocked even me. Oh, it doesn't.
Wake up every day, somebody harass me. I got rich, they need money, they asking me. I was sitting in jail, they look out for me. Ones who need me, no saying, ones who doubted me.
I'm going to run that video back again, because one is a short clip of Julio Jones working the ladder. Watch his footwork. And then in the Derrick Henry video, watch what he's stiff arming, because it's no longer the helmet on the stick, although that did make an appearance later that day in practice.
Wake up every day, somebody harass me. I got rich, they need money, they asking me. I was sitting in jail, they look out for me. Ones who need me, no saying, ones who doubted me.
They're literally having him stiff arm live human beings at practice now. He also did some work with the helmet on the stick. It was hilarious to me watching that drill. Now, it is important to note that Derrick also, while like Kari Blossingame and Jeremy McNichols were going through that drill, he was also a stiff arming target. So he was not excused from being a live action dummy for the stiff arm drill that Coach Tony Dews, the running back coach, had out there on the field. Bobby French says, happy Tuesday, Buck. So pumped up, brother, about this weekend. Thanks for the hard work. A to Z. Well, you're quite welcome. We're happy to do it because it's football season, baby. The content is rolling. New episode of The Install tomorrow. Don't forget that Bud Dupree, Titans outside linebacker, is on my radio show tomorrow at 11:15 Central Time. Make sure you're listening on 104.5 The Zone or on the Zone app. You can listen to me there as well. Article available for you now on the one biggest advantage, or the one clear and obvious advantage for the Tennessee Titans against Kyler Murray. I wrote that just before we started the primetime show at atozsports.com. Enjoy this week of hype. We will be back with you tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Central Time, thereabouts. And, by the way, Thursday, 6:30 for primetime, because I don't want to try and do halftime of the Bucs-Cowboys game. I just think that's going to be a mess. So we're going to do it 6:30 primetime on Thursday night. Don't forget, because it's football, baby. And I want to enjoy the football game uninterrupted, but I know you do as well. And all whilst doing so, just know that we're not tired yet. No!